Welcome back, dear Turkish Spotlight Secrets family. Tonight, the glow in our studio feels softer, warmer, almost like a hand placed gently over a rapidly beating heart. We're stepping away from the cold flash of paparazzi bulbs and setting our gaze on something far more intimate. If you thought you knew Barış Arduç, the guarded leading man whose private moments seemed forever out of reach, prepare to see him through a completely different lens. This isn't about red carpets or set gossip. This is about life, raw and unfiltered. Before we dive into a confession that may linger with you long after this video ends, make sure you're subscribed, tap that like button if you value stories told with care, and ring the bell so you never miss what we uncover. And if you want to support Turkish Spotlight Secrets and access special extras, the join button is waiting with open arms. For years, Barış moved like a shadow through the loudest corners of show business, a mystery by choice, a professional who let his role speak while his personal life stayed faithfully off stage. He was measured. He was precise. He was protective of every boundary. And then came a moment no one saw coming, a stillness so profound that the quiet became louder than any headline. He didn't step forward to promote a film. He didn't step forward to extinguish a rumor. He stepped forward because something immense had changed him. Barış spoke to the entertainment world for the first time about the tidal wave of emotion that comes with becoming a father. The revelation didn't crash in with theatrics, it arrived like dawn after a sleepless night. In a calm conversation far from the frenzy, he let down his guard and let the truth out. "I'm living the most special chapter of my life," he said, the kind of line that could have been a screenplay moment if not for the honesty in his eyes. At first, those listening weren't sure what to make of it. But then came a smile, hesitant and unstoppable all at once, and he confirmed what his silence had been cradling: fatherhood had arrived. Within minutes, his name was rippling across timelines and talk shows, not because of a scandal, but because he had finally shared a feeling that was too big to hide. People close to him say something in his gaze has softened and deepened, as if a new language has been written on his heart overnight. He spoke of a storm of emotions, joy that makes your chest swells, a flutter of fear that keeps you alert, and the kind of responsibility that sits with you from morning to dawn. You start planning differently, he explained. You look further ahead. Suddenly, everything you do echoes in a future that doesn't belong to you alone. He did not perform that admission, he lived it right there, and even the most seasoned journalists found themselves disarmed by the sincerity he brought into the room. He remembers the instant it all changed, as if time pressed pause. No grand gesture, no melodrama, just a silence so full it almost lifted him off the ground. The world shrank to a breath and then opened wider than it had ever been. From that point on, routine became ritual. The smallest things, a text unanswered, a morning coffee gone cold, acquired a new weight. Plans he used to accept without thinking transformed into decisions made with a protective care that surprised even him. Even as he opened the door to his inner world, he drew a line in the sand with unwavering calm. Privacy remains sacred. He chose not to share details about his partner or family, making it clear that his joy doesn't need the oxygen of public scrutiny to burn bright. Some things, he said with firm tenderness, deserve to be lived quietly in the sanctuary of home. The emotion is piercing and immense, but he wants it to be peaceful. The audience, to their credit, responded with warmth. They applauded not just the news, but the grace with which he balanced vulnerability with boundaries. And yes, we feel it too, Turkish Spotlight Secrets family. It is a beautiful thing to watch a man discover that love can rearrange the furniture of the soul in a single day. What would you tell Barış as he steps into this new season? What wisdom do you carry about patience, presence, and gentleness that he might need when the lights are low and the world is quiet? Do you believe fatherhood will shift the roles he chooses, the scripts he says yes to, the stakes he holds? Tell us in the comments below. If you value the way we're holding this story, with respect, warmth, and honest curiosity, consider supporting the channel by hitting join. Your support keeps this space thoughtful and kind. The internet, so often a place of noise, became a chorus of congratulations. Colleagues, friends, and fans flooded social media with messages that glowed with pride. Many wrote that the moment seemed perfectly earned, that he had always carried himself with a certain emotional intelligence, and now that depth is simply speaking a little louder. Industry insiders smiled and said they weren't surprised. He's careful, they shared. He's conscientious. You could feel that he was built for this role long before it arrived. He didn't announce any immediate changes to his career, but he didn't have to. Between lines, it was obvious that something elemental had shifted. Work still matters deeply, he acknowledged, but it no longer sits alone at the top of the mountain. The priorities are rearranging themselves, and he is letting them. For many who have been following his journey, this felt like the opening scene of a calmer, truer, and gently transformative act in his life. He spoke about fatherhood as a classroom that no one warns you how hard and tender it can be. It has a way of turning your focus inward, he said, asking questions that don't have quick answers. Who do you want to be when a small hand reaches for yours? What values do you hope to hand over like a beloved book, worn at the edges from use? The more he reflected, the more the audience listened, certain they were hearing a process, not a press release, something that was still warm from the inside out. Unlike any character he has portrayed, this role has no script, no rehearsal, no second take. There's no mark to hit beneath the lights. There's just the day in front of you and the night that follows, and the next day after that. No one teaches you the choreography, you learn the steps under your breath as you go. He admitted that vulnerability, the kind that shakes loose the need to control every scene, had arrived and he was letting it stay. Some nights, he confessed, he wakes up with the simple question, whispered in the dark, will I be good enough? The doubt didn't sound frozen or fearful, it sounded awake, aware, and anchored in the weight of loving well. Those close to him say his schedule has shifted like the tide. He's accepting fewer late-night invitations, more quiet meals at home. He reads about parenting and presence, about nervous systems and lullabies, about listening to what goes unsaid. He repeats that he wants to learn how to be present, not just in the big moments, but in the quiet ones where love grows like ivy, slow and persistent. Providing and protecting matter to him, of course, but he keeps underlining another word with a steadier hand, accompanying. He wants to be a witness to the journey as it unfolds, not just a provider of its scenery. Naturally, the conversation took him back in time. Without digging into details he wishes to keep, he conceded that fatherhood is also a mirror held up to your own beginnings. When you're about to build a future for someone else, the past visits. You trace old paths with new eyes and decide which footsteps to follow and which to soften. The audience understood at once, it wasn't a surge of excitement alone, it was a thoughtful audit of the heart. What kind of father does he hope to be? He didn't aim for perfection. He didn't recite a list of idealized promises. He spoke about presence, even when the room is still. Presence that looks like listening, consistency that feels like a hand steady enough to trust. Children, he said, often feel things long before they can explain them, and that truth sits with him like a compass. He wants attentiveness to be the language he speaks most fluently. With this first opening to the magazine world about his private transformation, Barış didn't ask for applause. He simply let us meet the person behind the roles, the man who is now ready for the most consequential part he will ever play. The screen may know him one way, but life has invited him to be known another, and he has accepted. The industry sees him differently tonight, not just as a consummate professional, but as someone becoming a student of the most demanding craft of all, love that raises, guides, and grows. And where does Elson Sanga fit into this quiet revolution? Right where she has so often stood in the hearts of their fans, close enough to understand, wise enough to respect the distance. As an on-screen partner whose chemistry with him has captivated audiences for years, she mirrors the sentiment many have voiced, pride, tenderness, and admiration for the way he is stepping forward. She didn't need to make a grand proclamation. A simple, heartfelt message of support, the kind that says I see you, was more than enough. Their dynamic, built on trust and artistry, feels perfectly at home in this chapter. It is friendship seasoned by time, collaboration burnished by success, and mutual respect that doesn't demand the spotlight to be real. After the initial wave of headlines began to settle, the reflections deepened. Even his craft has started to look different to him, he hinted. Scripts are still thrilling, they always will be, but now he considers how the roles align with the world he is building off camera. He listens more closely to what a story is saying about care, loyalty, and courage. That doesn't mean a sudden turn away from complexity, it means a fuller, braver embrace of the consequences of his choices. Behind the scenes, small habits have begun to glow. He lingers longer over goodbyes. He keeps his phone face down at dinner. He stores laughter like it's a form of savings. He is learning that love is not only loud and grand. It is also quiet and steady, an everyday discipline that requires the same attention he brings to a set, maybe more. He's mindful that the camera is always watching on screen, now he's learning how to be mindful when no one is watching at all. There were moments in our conversation when the room felt hushed, as if the air had decided to listen. He talked about how responsibility can be a balm, not a burden, when you stop resisting its call. When he held the news in his hands for the first time, he didn't feel an urge to run. He felt a deep instinct to root. And rooting, he has come to believe, is an art. It is a slow, careful shaping of days so that someone else can grow tall. Fans have asked if this means we'll see him less. He smiled and said he hopes we will see him differently. Maybe the pauses in his schedule will be a little longer, maybe a script will wait for a better season, but the goal is not less, it's truer. Success, as he defined it, is beginning to include quiet mornings and messy afternoons, soft voices, and patient hands. It is the success that does not require applause to exist. We asked him what advice has mattered most so far. He paused and said it wasn't a tip, but a realization, that love asks for presence and patience more than perfection. The notion sits with him like a gentle bell that keeps ringing. He wants to become fluent in it. He knows he will stumble. He is prepared to apologize with grace and try again without pride getting in the way. There is courage in that humility, and it suits him. As the news spread, one message from a colleague caught our eye, not for its grandeur but for its simplicity. "You've always been ready," it read. "You just didn't know it." In that line, we saw the truth of what so many have felt about him for years. He has been building toward this, piece by careful piece, quietly laying stones where others made noise. And now the path has led him somewhere beautiful. So here we are, standing with you at the edge of a new beginning, watching a beloved star lean into the most human story of all. Tonight, we don't close with a twist. We close with a promise. The promise that love, when treated with reverence, transforms the teller and the listener alike. The promise that what happens at home, in slippers and whispers, often matters more than any ovation. The promise that the heart, once enlarged, does not shrink back to its old size. And with that, we draw the curtain on today's report from Turkish Spotlight Secrets. Tell us, what moved you most about Barış's reflection on being a present father? Do you think this new chapter will change the kinds of projects he lends his time to, or will it simply deepen the way he inhabits them? We're certain of one thing, love will only sharpen his artistry. Don't forget to tap like to send a warm wave of congratulations, subscribe so you can follow every turn of this beautiful journey, and share this with anyone who believes in stories told from the heart. And remember, if you wish to lift our work and keep this space glowing, the join button is there for you. Until we meet again, and to Barış, may this new life fill your days with tenderness, courage, and wonder.